Care with Candace. So sorry for the delay, but between midterms and work picking up, it's been extremely crazy, and I just got off of spring break. So I needed to take a little step back, get everything together, but now we're good and we're back, okay? So hopefully everyone's been doing a wonderful job. Hopefully everyone's been having a good experience in the nursing world and in life, obviously. And today I just want to come back, bring us back to really talking about how to adjust to change that's happening on our unit. And I'm bringing this up based off of my recent experience going to work this past weekend. And I work 3 days in a row, typically, on a good week. Work 3 days in a row, you expect to have your same patient, census for those 3 consecutive days, as long as they haven't gotten transferred out of your unit. So, working 3 days, first 2 days I had the same 2 patients, okay? When I tell you it was sweet, it was extremely sweet. They were critical care patients, but really more of intermediate care type patients at the same time. So both of them didn't need any type of trauma treatment or anything of that nature, but you still obviously had to, check after them, check their vitals, make sure that they still were doing everything that they needed to do to continue to be that status in order to be downgraded within the next day. So those patients were perfect, like no issues with them or anything like that. You didn't call for anything unless they absolutely needed something. Your ideal walkie-talkie patients. So on my last day, the 3rd day, I anticipated on having these patients back. It was interesting because the morning that I was done with my 2nd shift, the nurse that came in the morning of my 3rd shift was very upset. She had been there for maybe 2-3 days as well, and she wanted to have her same run of patients back. Sometimes, unfortunately, depending on the patient load, depending on the charge nurse that night or day, they may change up the assignment based off of who's moving, who's coming in, what types of patients, what types of nurses that we have, in order to make sure that the assignment is as fair as possible. Sometimes they honestly forget that that person was here the previous day and give them back their same assignment. So she came in, she was very upset because she had admitted these 2 patients, previous days and stuff. She had done all the work for them. She was confident in knowing what she needed to do with them and had a plan coming into work. So obviously she gets there and now she does not have those same set of patients. And instead of her getting, just an additional 3rd patient, she gets 3 entirely new patients. So she has to basically start fresh for her very last day. I've seen multiple times nurses be very, very upset by that, and I could totally understand why, like, especially if you come in there with this idea that you have these set plans of what you're going to do for the patient this time at night or during the day, and you just want to go in and you already know them, you're familiar with their body and everything and our assessments, so you're just ready to get updates and continue about your day. Well, now that's not the case. Now I have to learn about all 3 of these new patients, and on top of that, she had a 3rd patient. So whenever you triple in the ICU, it can be a hit or miss. Hopefully you'll have like a critical care, somebody who's going to get downgraded, and maybe one actually super critically care type person. But in her case, one was trying to get out of bed, the other one was a trauma patient, and the other one wasn't even here yet. More than likely was going to be another trauma patient as a new admit. So it's very unsettling for some people to kind of adjust to that change, especially at the start of their shift when they're not expecting it. But the biggest thing I can give to you guys as advice is to just roll with the punches. If you can, fight for your assignment back. If you get there at an early enough time to see what the assignment is, definitely request your assignment back. Fight for the fact that you've been there for the past, few days and stuff, and that you would like to have those same people back, especially if they're still there in the unit, but if you didn't get there on time to get those patients, it's not the end of the world. Just run with the flow and be the best nurse that you can be for those patients that day, okay? So after I was done having those 2 consecutive days with the same patients, I came in my 3rd day and I had a completely different run. I went from regular chill, ready to downgrade patients to a hot mess. But it really wasn't a hot mess, but it seemed like a hot mess to me because of the extensive history that led them up to being in the hospital, what types of skills that needed to be implemented, what types of drips that they were on. It was just like, okay, complete opposite of what I had for the previous 2 days. So get this patient, first patient, I mean, that person really didn't need too much, but the second patient was more critical in a sense of having a difficult airway where we can have to be very cautious of what types of movements that we're doing on them, type of turns, cares, like hygiene care and things like that, because at any moment of the wrong move or any wrong positioning or something with that patient, they could potentially lose their airway, and an emergency is definitely going to happen. So basically, a little bit of backstory on this person. They had Versed going, they had fentanyl going, they had Clinomix going, and then they had a very new drug, for me at least, and they had Becaronium. If anybody knows what Becaronium is, oh my gosh. All I have to say is sedate your patient before you paralyze them. Okay? So Becaronium is a paralytic, all right? It is a very dangerous drug, high risk, where you need to be careful to make sure that you're utilizing it correctly and making sure that you're measuring the person's amount of paralyzation according to the doctor's orders. Okay, so what they were using as their scores to test how paralyzed this person was is called the train of 4. So he had that going. He also had Biz going, which I had never even seen or heard of before. And Biz is just measuring how much the person is sedated versus awake. So with the paralytic, with Becaronium, that was his first time since like didactic training in a classroom 2 years ago. I had learned about train of 4. I never seen it in person. It's the first time I actually worked with it with a patient. So obviously already right now this person is completely paralyzed, or at least he's supposed to be. Wasn't that really the case? When you're paralyzed, that means that you're not supposed to be able to breathe on your own. You should not be coughing, you should not be gagging, you should not be being able to breathe over the ventilator. This patient was breathing over the ventilator. He was coughing, he was gagging. Certain movements would trigger and like stimulate him. So this is also while being maxed on the dose of Becaronium. So like in addition to them being maxed on the Becaronium, we're like maxing out the sedation and stuff. And when they're doing the train of 4, the goal was to keep them 2 out of 4. This person was literally 4 out of 4 twitches. And we're just like, okay, doctors know, we're notifying them. They're not willing to change and increase the dose of the Becaronium or anything like that. It's just the fact that you're not at your twitching goal for the train of 4 while being heavily sedated on these medications and paralyzed. So, and thing about that is just really making sure that you're able to follow all the orders that you have, and making sure that whatever numbers or scores that you're measuring is matching up to that specific order as well. So as this girl is giving me report, she's telling me all these drastic changes that are happening within the past hour and a half, and how she reached out to this doctor and this doctor, making sure that the person who's handling this piece of the trachea is notified. If it gets lost, please don't lose the airway. So you're worried about the patient like not being as paralyzed and sedated as they're supposed to be in order to ultimately protect their airway. If that gets lost, like that's obviously an emergency, and a whole nother situation is gonna unfold. But the biggest thing with getting that report from that nurse was just really me changing my mindset to say, hey, I know this is my last day. It sucks that I have to give, report to somebody else and I won't be back and things like that. It's not a consistent, you know, type of care with each nurse. So it sucked for her have to give it to me, knowing that I wasn't going to be back that night or anything like that. But I just had to adjust my mindset to just accept the report, make sure I know what it is that I need to do, and learn these couple skills before she leaves, and then obviously have anybody else help me during my night shift to make sure that I'm like measuring and looking at this patient appropriately with these medications that are new to me. So, you know, I could have simply, you know, gone back to the charge nurse and requested for my assignment back because I wanted an easy night, or whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, I'm not here to stick with being content with my assignments. I'm here to learn. I'm here to take on challenges, and me getting that type of patient, it really meant that I needed to be sure to learn this new skill so that when I see it again, it's not a surprise or a shock to me. I actually understand what the trainer four is for, how to utilize this, you know, knowing how to do those titrations in a timely manner, and then also documenting those titration changes and stuff as the patient is, you know, adjusting or, you know, not meeting those goals. So, it wasn't a bad night at all. It just kept me on my toes and stuff like that. I will say, definitely make sure that all of your equipment is working when you do have extra monitors that are used to meet the goals with those medications, so that you know that you're properly utilizing the machines. And another thing, when at the end of my shift, because both of those patients had so much going on, and I'm going to make a separate video about this in terms of like organizing your report and stuff, but because they had so much going on, when I'm looking at my report sheet, I can't tell what I'm looking at. I can't tell the order. Everything is in different colors scattered across the page. So I found some time up in there to basically write out the pertinent information in regards to what led them up to today's event. You know, you definitely want to highlight when that person was intubated, what procedures they went for, what imaging they had done, what were their morning labs, were the replacements done for them, you know, making sure that it's basically within a chronological order, so that the next person that's coming on can understand the events that are happening. Needless to say, I did all of that. I was prepared. I was like, okay, cool. I have a better understanding of what I did last night. I'm ready to get a report. I got all this stuff written out, all this past history and what led them up to today's event. Y'all, guess what? My day shift nurse didn't even show up. I was pretty bummed. You know, my charge nurse was like, hey, where's such and such? I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, is that who's taking my patients? It's like, yeah. I was like, oh, for both of them? He's like, yeah. I said, okay, good, because I'm still writing out my stuff. He said, no, that's not good. I said, I mean, I guess not, because technically she's not here yet, you know, for her shift. But, you know, give her a few minutes. She'll be here, right? I don't know what happened after I left, but charge nurse told me, gave me a report. I know him, I know them. All right, cool. I gave him, you know, everything that I had written up for the night. All right, cool, here you go. Whenever she gets here, or whoever gets here, here's my report for them. So yeah, that will happen at least one time for those people who might oversleep or forget that they had a scheduled shift. It's okay, it happens to the best of us. But I promise you, you won't do it multiple times once you mess up that first time. But it was a good adjustment, to say the least. And my highlight is just to basically remind you guys that it is okay to experience change during your shifts, at the start of your shift, but you need to make sure to adjust your mindset and make sure you don't like freak out and bring that negative energy to the work environment with the nurse that you're getting a report from, giving a report to any people that come through and you're interacting with and stuff. You need to have a positive mindset no matter how you look at it in order to get the best care for your patients. Okay, so stay tuned for more. Like, subscribe, and share this with a friend. Share this with anybody who has who's in nursing, graduated from nursing, new grad as well, and share some stories with us about any abrupt changes that you've had in your work day and how you handled them. All right, thanks.